Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network. And we are back with our life coach, our spiritual teacher, acupuncturist, massage therapist, a woman with many titles, wearing many hats. I don't know how she does it all, but she does. Laura Jean Castelluzzo, some may know her as Sky. And we're excited to have her back here on the show today. And just to point out, it's laurajeanc.com. That's LauraJeanC.com. Welcome back to the show. How are you?
Good. How are you? It's nice to be back.
You too. For those new listeners and viewers out there today, would you mind sharing a little bit about yourself?
Sure. So, yes, I'm an acupuncturist, massage therapist, and life coach. I'm also a spiritual teacher, and I sing and dance. And I'm a single person living in Buffalo, New York, with no kids and no pets, and just doing my thing, growing lots of food at my house.
Beautiful. And I'm so sorry to those in your town. I mean, what a horrible situation. It's over the headlines in the news right now about the mass shooting in Buffalo. So prayers to the community up there for sure.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Now, last time we spoke, I know there's a few things you want to, follow up on in a sense, and in regards to healing. And a lot of us have to go through healing in relationships. If you want to discuss that a little bit. Also, we're supposed to have a guest that's joining us for the show as well. We hope Linda Heronwin joins us as well, who's a psychologist, a spiritual teacher, and we're going to talk to her too a little bit later. But do you want to recap a little bit then from last time?
Sure. Yeah, just a little distracted waiting for my friend to join.
That's okay.
Yeah, something might have came up for her. I'm not sure what's going on, but hopefully she can join us. Yeah, so I mentioned a little bit last time about how me getting started with being a life coach, how part of that was growing up in a single parent home, being raised by my mom, and things were a little, challenging for us. And so I wasn't the happiest kid, and did a lot of growing from that, and got to this place where that's why I wanted to teach people how to be happy after I learned how to be happy. But I just wanted to add to that I have done so much healing with my parents since that time. My parents are divorced, so I've done a lot of work on my relationship with my father and my relationship with my mother. I've found that those relationships are so crucial for our own mental well-being and healing. And, just that there's a lot of healing to be done there for most people. And it's been really beneficial for me to work on those relationships. And I'm really thankful for both of my parents, for sure.
Wonderful. Well, thank you for sharing that. And also, just you were mentioning in the notes about Linda, your friend, who hopefully will be joining us. She's, what would you say? She's an inspiration to you. How did the two of you meet? Would you mind discussing your relationship together?
Yeah, sure. Just taking a little sip of water. I don't remember the first time that I met her, but she runs a community called Circle in Victor Fisher's, New York. And someone told me about a gathering that she was having or something like that. And I think one of my friends brought me to her place, and I was just really inspired, and definitely she became an inspiration to me for what she was doing there. And at the time, she also had a separate property where she held gatherings more in the country near, I think it was kind of near Letchworth. Are you familiar with Letchworth?
No, I'm not.
Oh, okay. It's like a cool place with waterfalls and things.
Okay, I know Niagara Falls.
Yeah. Kind of south of Rochester, that sort of area.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so she doesn't have that property anymore, but I was just really inspired by what she was doing. That's a lot of what I want to be doing in my life in the future, is owning land and hosting gatherings, building community, leading retreats and things like that. And So she was holding these circle gatherings where women's circles and healing circles and men's circle. Actually, I'm not sure if there were men's circles, but I imagine maybe there were. She didn't lead
Yeah.
those. Um, and drumming circles, and she does gatherings on the solstice and the equinox and things like that. So
Wow.
I think it was one of those gatherings that I went to her place, and it was just really beautiful. Nice space.
And I know you wanted to talk a little bit about the sense of community, right? And the importance of that. I don't know if you want to wait for her and talk about something else, but I'll let you
Yeah.
take the lead here on that. I just want to make sure we're covering everything that's important to you, hon.
Yeah, thank you. So, well, I guess I'll just start by saying, uh, I think it was in 1997. I was living in Buffalo and going to Buffalo State College, and I met this group of people who I ended up living with a bunch of them in a communal household. And one of them was this friend of mine, Albert Brown, and he's like a go-getter, make things happen kind of person. And he definitely inspired me to be more like that in my life. And so he started this communal household, and that was my first experience with community, in the sense of living with community. And back in those days, I was looking into intentional communities, living with the
Mm-hmm.
community. There's a website, actually, if people are interested in that, called ic.org, which is intentionalcommunities.org. And you can look up the state that you want to live in, or in the area. And there's this list of all these different communities that you can go visit and be in touch with. And so that's a great resource for people to have if they're interested in that sort of thing. I'm not sure at this point where my path is going to continue to go or end up or lead to, as far as living in community. I do still think about um, potentially owning land with other people, or owning land and sharing sharing resources, maybe having tiny houses. You know how some people
Mm-hmm.
have those tiny houses or different cabins. So I've lived in a few different communal households, and I've learned from that that's not really what I want to do.
Yes. Got it.
There's a lot of learning that can be had from that, a lot of growing, but there's also a lot of opportunity for confrontation and just challenges, a lack of quiet and peace, I would say.
Yeah.
So I really, as I get older, I really appreciate my peace and quiet at my house. My home is very quiet and peaceful and tranquil, and I really appreciate that. So if I was going to share land with people, I would want to have my own little living structure,
Mm-hmm.
maybe with a significant other. I'm single at the moment, but I would like to maybe share my life with
Yeah.
someone at some point. Got to meet the
So
right guy.
look, I'm 44. I have two kids. I'm single. I've been single. So I haven't got that part of my life down right. Doesn't mean I just find, like, at this point, I'm like, it's just my path. I try, it doesn't work out. Doesn't mean some people have their own paths and journeys. And there's times where maybe you feel, I can't speak for you, but for me, I feel like, well, what am I doing wrong? Someone has this, my sister has a marriage and this, but then everyone looks at me and says, wow, you're so lucky. So maybe the grass isn't always greener. I don't know, but I'm in your boat. I feel for you.
Thank you. It's funny. I've been doing all this work on myself the last couple of years. Like last year, like physical stuff. Last year, I got the LASIK surgery, so I don't have
Hmm.
glasses anymore. And I've
Congratulations.
been doing Invisalign for the last 3
I,
years, and
I look at my teeth. See how straight they are?
it's
My
beautiful.
parents couldn't afford braces for me, but then my sister and my brother did. And then I'm the one who ended up working in television radio. So my teeth were like, can't open their mouth. So when I was 20, I started that. And by the way, the key is wearing your retainers every night. I messed up one
Yes,
time
I've
and I had
heard.
to read through the process. So now they're called Vivera is the hardest retainer when you're done. Like you'll get Vivera retainers. They're very hard and you replace them every year. But oh my gosh, good for you. It's good to feel good about
Yeah,
self-care.
yeah.
Self-love is so important in what we all do. And yeah, and as a coach, you gotta teach your clients and you gotta earn it. You're there, you're
Yeah.
empathizing,
Gotta,
you gotta live it too. You're
right.
awesome,
Feel
you're
good
rocking
about
it.
myself. Thank you.
Good.
Yeah, so for those of you listening at home, there will be a video of this podcast available on my website at some point if you are interested in seeing us.
Yes, absolutely.
So so I was doing the Invisalign just to finish that up really quickly, and there was this one tooth that was being really stubborn, so I ended up getting braces
On the
from here to
bottom.
here,
Oh, you
and
never know.
now there's another problem. But whatever, like they're gonna fix it. I just have to
And
be patient, you know?
and you don't even see it when you speak. But yeah,
Yeah,
go for it.
thanks.
And you're gonna
But
feel
they're
amazing.
almost perfect.
Good. Yeah, because with Invisalign, they put that little cement like nub to try to like turn
Mm,
it. Do you know what I'm saying? It's like a
yeah, yeah,
attachment, it's called, but they don't
yeah,
always work. Yeah. But you
right.
never, your teeth look great. My goodness.
Oh, thank you. You look beautiful as well.
Thank you. Thank you. Self tanner and self care.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, so, back in the day in the 90s, I started looking into community and just learning the importance of that. And that friend that I mentioned, Albert Brown, I remember him quoting something. I don't remember who it was by, but it was about how community is like um, a bunch of rough, hard rocks with rough edges coming together and then rubbing up against each other. And eventually they become like shiny, beautiful gems. You know what I mean? Because you have to, it's that like facing ourselves and facing each other and dealing with other people on a regular basis is how we really learn about ourselves and grow, whether we're living in the same house or sharing space or just coming together with people on a regular basis. That continual interaction with other people and developing intimate relationships with other people, or you're sharing about your life and being being vulnerable with people and letting your guard down, it opens things up for potentially getting your feelings hurt, taking things personally, things like that can come up. And those are opportunities to grow and learn about ourselves. So, like, one of the reasons that I would like to have a life partner, and one of the reasons that I am really into community, is because I know that when we have those intimate relationships with other people, that's a reflection of us. Like, if we're having a judgment about someone or a judgment about something that's going on, it's really a reflection of something that's happening within
yeah.
ourselves.
Yeah.
And so those are all opportunities to grow. Yeah.
And
So like I've heard that talked about in a way where referring to those things about ourselves is like our disowned parts, those parts about ourselves that are difficult to love, you know. So trying to think of an example. Okay, I have, so like something that in myself that I can see in other people sometimes. I used to be, and I still am sometimes. I like to get attention. We can all be a little needy occasionally, right? So
absolutely.
like, sometimes when I see that neediness in someone else, it's hard for me to take, and I want to like put a little bit of a boundary up or make a judgment in my mind about that. But that just comes from seeing that in myself, and that's a reflection of me. So
Yeah.
for example, if you have someone in your life that, we talked about swearing last time.
Mm-hmm. It
I'll
happens.
just say a-hole. Like, if you
Yeah.
have an a-hole in your life, and I don't necessarily feel like I have that, but um, whatever amount in your life that is coming up is how much that is inside yourself. so that it's like, those reflections help to see what's going on inside and
Yeah.
bring on more self-awareness. I won't get into that too much, but we can talk about that more in another show with mindfulness.
Yes, that's another good one. Mindfulness, gratitude, all the things, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So do you have any experience with being a part of different communities?
Well, it's funny you said this because let me talk about this. I'm Catholic, but I'm not super religious. And my son's now going to religion, right? He's 7. So we're learning it. I feel like I'm learning more about the church now. And then my boyfriend who I'm dating, he's fully Greek and his family's very Greek. We went to this Greek community on Sunday to like a Greek festival in New Jersey. And I was shocked because I'm not used to that culture, that whatever. And they were doing their Greek dancing, and I felt like, wow, these people are awesome. And my kids were like laughing at first, watching his kids in like skirts, like dancing. But I'm like, no, this is their community. This is their religion. We got to learn to respect each and every one, everyone who's different. And then another big part of that community is an Indian community. Then there's a Jewish community. So, and everyone got together. And I love that there's a sense of community amongst different communities in a sense of different religions, because I don't know, I know growing up, my parents were definitely call it old school, discriminatory. It was, my
Mhm.
dad was, well, there's an African American neighbor down the block. Like they were just very narrow minded, and I just hope all that goes away from my children and they realize that every individual is unique and perfect, and you could be any color to be great and loved and have a friend. Like, so speaking of community, I learned, my eyes were open to now the Greek community and the Indian community this week, and I'm like, there's it's wonderful that we all are unique individuals. And it's I
Mm.
hate discrimination. I hate that
Yeah.
exists, and I'm hoping my kids aren't going to experience that. And like my son has a little girl in class he's good friends with. It's like my brown friend, she's my brown friend, but he loves her.
Mm,
But so you can clearly see people look different or speak different, but they're still his
yeah.
friend. And I'm like, yes. I just hope that all kind of stops, because
Oh, yeah,
yeah. So I'm sorry I went
absolutely.
on a rant in maybe a
No,
different form of
that's
community,
okay.
but
I feel like you're reminding me of what happened in Buffalo this last weekend again, and
racist.
I feel like we owe it to the community and the world and anybody listening to just send out some prayers for those people who lost their loved ones and for those families. And so that happened actually just a couple of blocks from this place that I go to
Oh
for
gosh.
community circles on the east side of Buffalo. There's a place called Soul Rise, and uh, we do ecstatic dance there, and there's been women's circles there and capoeira events, which is Brazilian martial arts, and there's all kinds of different community gatherings happening there. It's a really beautiful place that my friend Joshua started. So the Tops was just 2 or 3 blocks from that, and so it's really close to home and really only about 10 minutes from where I live. Actually, I don't generally go to that Tops. I'm not a fan of Tops in general, honestly. I like Wegmans.
Mm-hmm.
But but yeah, I so it was really close to home, and I happened to be in Cleveland when that happened. I was doing an acro yoga class with this guy Acro James. If you're on Instagram, he's amazing. Acro James. Little plug
Yeah.
for him. But yeah, so um I went to the prayer vigil that happened on Sunday at this Tops. It was in right in the street. They closed the block off, and there were hundreds of people there. It was really beautiful. And I brought some flowers. There was a couple different flower memorials. So there's a tree with tons of flowers and candles surrounding it now. And they did another prayer vigil last night. I wasn't able to make
Mm.
it to that one, but it was just really beautiful being and emotional for sure. I had a couple tears when I was there, and I could see other people crying, and some people. I There were a couple of people there that got some anger came up, which I can imagine. They're angry, they lost their loved ones. Um, it was hard to see that, but I had compassion for them and just sending them peace and love. And honestly, I remember I was standing with a friend of mine when this one woman was really upset, and she's a dark skinned woman, and I'm white for those listening, if that's not clear already. Um, and I was wanting to go console her, and I just had this feeling that she wouldn't want to be consoled by me right now, and I just held back. And a few moments later, this dark-skinned man who's a
Mm.
pastor, I think, came over and put his arm around her, and I just felt
Ah,
so like relieved that she had some loving attention. It was very emotional.
mm.
But yeah, I mean, that's what community is all about. We have to like stand up for each other when during hard times and be there for each other. And it's just such a valuable asset for people. I know, especially in the last 2 years, through this pandemic with COVID. I know even still, I was hearing a story from one of my clients yesterday about someone that she knows that is like has been isolated even from his family within his home, couldn't even have dinner with his wife and children. You know what I mean? Like,
Ah,
so many people have been isolated through this process, and I just feel like it's such a great need and value and importance for people to gather with others. And like we need that as humans. I don't know what your life was like during those 2 years. At least you had your children, and I'm sure that was hard at times. I don't know if you do co-parenting, if they're with you all the time, but
yeah.
yeah, I know it was difficult for a lot of couples were stuck with each other, and that was hard for them. And some people grew closer together, and it was just a difficult year. So community come like having the resources of community in your life. You mentioned church. I used to go to the Unitarian Universalist Church. And I still will go there on occasion, but I moved across town, so it's not as close as it used to be. And I loved going there because it's a place um, where everyone is welcome. I'm not really Christian anymore. I was raised Catholic, but I'm more of a spiritual person. I believe in a higher power and all of that. But anyway, so I liked going to this place because you could believe in anything and go there. It was more about being a good person. Um, and that was just one option for me of a place that I could go, excuse me, where I had community. I remember I used to go there pretty much every week for a while, and I didn't have a lot of other things going on at the time, and it was just so nurturing for my spirit.
Ah.
I've been talking for a while. I don't know if you want to add anything. Sorry.
No, 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 no. It's, just the horrible tragedy just sits with me, and knowing that's so close to home for you and your family and your community. My goodness.
Mm.
But I just want to let you know, so confirm that link that you did
Oh,
send your friend is the link.
yeah.
So I guess she's not
Thanks. Yeah, I don't
joining
know
us
what
today, which is
happened.
fine. We
Something
can,
must have come up for her,
that
but maybe
not
she's
a
having some
problem.
kind of technical difficulties. I
Difficulty.
don't
But
know.
she could always join the next one. So I didn't know, we still have only, gosh, 4 minutes left on the show.
Oh,
How
yeah.
quickly it goes.
I
Um,
know, right? Well, I did
yes,
want to touch on circles
go ahead.
specifically. I know we talked a lot about community. Um, so just this idea of gathering together with people in a circle, whether it's a talking circle or other kinds of circles, like I mentioned healing circles and there's drumming circles. The talking circles specifically, I learned about that around 20 years ago from different communities that I've been involved with. Um, the Well, one thing is when you sit in a circle with people, you all see each other. You're open to each other. It's not like in a classroom setting where you're sitting like in rows, all facing the front and with one person talking. We're all sitting in a circle, facing each other, all on the same level. And so there's a sense of vulnerability with that, and just an automatic openness that happens. So even just being in that setting of sitting in a circle can be challenging for some people because there's a vulnerability that comes with that openness. It's not for everyone, but if you are ready to like be in that space, it can be so valuable to the talking circles, specifically the Native American talking stick circle is a traditional thing where you pass the stick around. And in the circles that I've been part of lately, we don't use a stick, but we just go around and acknowledge whose turn it is to talk. And when it's the person's turn to talk, then everyone else just listens with acceptance and love and just holds space for that person.
Yeah.
And it's not a space for responding or reacting in like a way of giving advice or anything like that. It's just listening, really. Sometimes if there's a person leading the circle, if they feel called to offer some kind of feedback or reflection,
Mm-hmm.
they can ask that person that's speaking if they would like that, but you always have the option to say no thank you.
Got it.
Yeah, so it's a very safe space and it's confidential. Everything that's shared in the circle is supposed to stay in the circle. And so, sometimes tears come up and people can, really let their guard down and be vulnerable. And sometimes that's all we really need in life, is it to be listened to. Like people go to a counselor or a psychologist, and that's a great thing to do as well. But a lot of the value in that, I think, is just being heard.
Yeah.
So if we can be aware of what's happening in our community, and if there's any circles that you hear about, I definitely recommend checking that out and giving yourself that gift, because it's a really beautiful thing to do.
Beautiful. Well, thank you so much. Unfortunately, we're out of time. Laura Jean Castelluzzo, how can we reach out to you?
LauraJeanC.com is my website, LauraJeanC.com, C as in cat or Castelluzzo.
I love it. I love it. Not as an SEE. Yeah, you have to point that out.
Yeah.
Great. And do you have a phone number you want to share as well?
Sure, 716-465-7408. Again, that's 716-465-7408.
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure, Jill. Thank you for having me.
Same here. Thank you. Looking forward to our next time we speak, and hopefully we'll have your friend on as well. Have a great day, and thank you all for tuning in.
Take care.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.